Welcome back to another episode of Excuse My Grandma. It's Kim and my co-host,
Grandma Gail.
So, Grandma, this morning we filmed so many outfit videos for social media. That's the best part about when I'm here in Florida, because you get to help me pick out my outfits. I get to go into your closet and steal some stuff, which is always fun.
I know it's running out of stuff though, Kim. I'm going to have to bring some more things into the closet.
We discover some old things that you forgot about sometimes. And yeah, I'm always ordering new stuff that you're like helping me decide whether to pick or to return.
Most of them are really not pickable.
Yeah, I'm not the best at ordering. But I feel like a lot of the time, obviously I'm wearing things that I would wear in my daily life, which is all pretty like comfortable.
Correct.
I mean, even if it's like a corseted dress or something, I was thinking about all like the past of fashion and thinking we can kind of go through the generations and talk about how fashion has changed so much from being really uncomfortable to more comfortable today. But even today, like I lounge in leggings or sweatpants most days unless I have to see people. But like if you're lounging, you're wearing like slacks.
Yeah, I usually wear a pair of nice pants. I don't like to wear loungewear at all.
Such a generational difference.
Well, it's also, I look dumpy in them. So if somebody sees me in sweatpants, I look like a little short balloon, like the Oopa Blueberry lady.
Oompa Loompa.
Oopa. So I tend to wear them. And, I have a lot of different like little pants that are tailored. And they look fine. And then when they get...
But how is that cozy?
To me, they're cozy.
Okay.
I
guess
fine.
Maybe you're used to being even more uncomfortable.
Yeah, I mean, if I get very, very casual, I'll put a t-shirt on.
Yeah,
but that's
the most
overdoing
casual.
That's really casual.
Yeah, I definitely dress a little bit more casual than you do generally, and I think
you like the sweatshirts.
Yeah, I wear a lot of sweatshirts and leggings and whatever. But I was doing a little research about the history of fashion and comfort, and like the major factor in the like comfort is king trend was due to the rise of synthetic fibers, which changed how people fit in their clothes.
And also washing. And it was an easier way to take care of their garments because they could wash them and hang them up on the line. They didn't need to have the pressing and the steaming and all that.
Right. So in the 19th century...
Which I wasn't there.
Right. Neither was I. S-shaped silhouettes with corsets and bustles were stylish, but obviously
now you have to see that on television.
Yeah. And then in the early 20th century, more comfortable styles emerged, which really was influenced by sportswear and women's changing roles.
Women's roles, basically being part of the electorate and everything else. They wanted more freedom.
Right. And then in the 20s, we know it was like flapper fashion, which was the shorter skirts and the looser silhouettes. So that was pretty comfortable, probably.
I don't know. I think they were very contrived, all of it.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because it's like we get a costume from a store and we dressed 1920s, but it really was how people dressed. And then there's World War I and II, which was like practical, functional clothing. Women were joining the workforce, so it was essential. And then we have the 50s, and that was really like Christian Dior's new look, right?
Yeah, but that was for highly styled. That was Paris and high couture people in America. That wasn't the normal. The normal woman in the 50s was wearing a house dress.
Yeah.
Or they weren't all working, and the ones who went to work went in probably just very simple little sundress kind of garments with a sweater or a jacket.
Everyday wear.
Yeah.
The 60s and the 70s were like bohemian hippie fashion.
Beatle time.
But loose and flowing, right?
Yes.
So
that was also a rejection to the war.
Right.
So everybody was sort of a little bit in their protest mode.
Yeah. So I guess we're bringing the comfort in there. Then the 80s, we have that athletic wear.
Correct.
And gaining popularity. And that's sort of the rise of sportswear and athleisure. 90s, grunge fashion. Also, like kind of oversized pieces, the oversized jeans,
that's all coming back now again.
Yeah.
Things cycle around. I think that's why people like to go to thrift stores. They can buy the stuff that was authentic at the time.
Right. And then 2000s to now, really, it has less of an identity in my mind. I feel like you're right in that we're kind of cycling, just trying to pick things from the past.
That we like, exactly.
But definitely like loungewear because of COVID and everything. Like,
well, those 4 years was strictly a loungewear moment.
Yeah, but even now we kind of carried that through. I think like.
Well, hopefully it's going away with now the return to the workforce, to the office.
But I think you're more comfortable at work too. Like if you think about the 80s and wearing power suits to now, like you're not wearing a tie and you're not.
Correct.
Most of my friends, I'm pretty sure, can wear like jeans.
Well, it depends what kind of industry you're in.
Yeah.
I think if you're in the financials, they still wear slacks and
but they
the
don't
women
have to
still
wear a dress.
No, but they don't wear loungewear.
They wear slacks.
Yeah, they wear slacks,
like
probably
trousers.
a jacket or a white man-tailored shirt.
Yeah.
Still have to be appropriately dressed.
So that's sort of the history of it all. But I was thinking we could bring in an expert today, Sarah Fiszel, who is a founder of a company that's all about ease in fashion. So let's bring her in to chat. Okay, Grandma and I have been talking about comfort in fashion and how that's changed over the years. So we thought the perfect guest to talk to today would be Sarah Fiszel. She's the founder of Brave Pudding. She's a mom. She is one of those amazing female entrepreneurs that started a business that is doing amazing. So we can't wait.
Different.
Yeah, different.
We're looking for different.
Yeah. So Sarah, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Us too. So we want to hear all about the journey of starting Brave Pudding, and then we have lots of questions.
Great. Well, my journey to starting Brave Pudding I didn't set out to start a business, which I think you have to really be open to because things develop at the right time when you're ready. And I'd always had drawers full of beautiful socks and I never wanted to wear them. And because the minute you wear a sock, they either get worn in the heel or roughed up in the back or ball. And then
Can I ask what makes a beautiful sock? Like, is it you can see the part that peeks through above the shoe, or?
I think it comes down to the fabric because of Brave Pudding and my sort of concept of lifestyle is just to be comfortable and luxurious, but not necessarily screaming it. And so the comfort, the fit, the style, the look, all of that is super important to me. So that's what I think makes the best sock. And then I love fun colors too in socks. And it just happened at the right time. It didn't start out to be a trend, but at the same time, everyone started wearing socks again and wearing high socks and wearing socks over your pants. And so it sort of coincided in this perfect storm. But I had just not set out to start a business, but when I was looking at all my socks, I wanted to wear them. And one day I had been wearing Belgian shoes forever since I was like 20 years old. I thought it was really funny to be retro and be in sort of a modern outfit, but wear super grandma Belgian shoes. And actually they won't sell them to you unless you go into the store. I mean, they're very particular. And I love that because it means that they really care about their shoes and sort of like last bastion of something that's still really special. So I'd wear them and I'd put soles on them, or I'd go to Paris and buy Charvet slippers and put soles on them and wear them outside. And I was like, I want to be even more comfortable. And I think post-COVID, that's what people
everybody wanted
changed.
to be comfortable.
And so how do you redefine that? People wanted to be out of their sweatpants. They wanted to be out of their yoga clothes, but sort of how does that translate in the modern world post the pandemic? And people spent more than ever in interior design because they were staying home more. And I felt like I wanted to take the comfort that I feel inside with all my cozy blankets and pajamas and loungewear and cozies. I wanted to bring that outside. I didn't want to take them off to leave. And so it was the perfect hybrid. I just started playing around with glue. The cobblers in New York City are amazing. It's sort of a lost trade that doesn't exist in a lot of other cities anymore. And they gave me advice, and they're the nicest guys. And they said, no, you have to do it this way. No, that glue won't hold.
Right. Because what was the knowledge you had prior to that in making
zero?
Footwear? Right.
I was not a cobbler. I'm the accidental
I thought you were a cobbler your whole life.
I did go to Cornell Textile and Design School.
Oh, okay. So you had some of that fashion.
I did. And I had worked at Ralph Lauren in the corporate offices when I was in high school. And I would go every day after school in my uniform from Nightingale.
So you had retail in your blood. You were really
the interest was there, right?
The interest was always there.
Yeah, interest was always
there. I remember my first job at 9 years old was selling men's shirts in East Hampton at this old
So
Springer
funny.
store. And I learned about the quality and how you sell something and how it feels and touches. And so I think that was really influential. And then I just started messing around and wearing them. And I was private on Instagram, and people started DMing me to place orders. And fast forward, I was making them in my bathroom. They were drying on my dining room table. My little son was helping me bag them up in half baguette bags to be delivered with Japanese washi tape.
I love.
And yeah, it was such a wonderful experience. And I think it was amazing to have the kids.
But
in
do
the
they
house.
come in sizes? Is
Yeah.
it small, medium,
so
and large?
So fast forward, we decided to make it
Right.
into a real product.
Business.
After selling almost 100. We were like, let's see if this can be a real business. And I wanted it to feel exactly as though you were wearing the most beautiful, pristine cashmere sock that never got dirty, never wore out, never had all the problems with socks, but also somehow translated to wear them outside. And they come in whole sizes. There's a full internal construction. So it's deceptive. It looks like you're just wearing a sock, but I like to say it's almost like a costume. But there's a full shoe. It just looks like a sock.
Okay.
But I think it's been definitely controversial and received a lot of attention because I think
it's different.
It's different. And people say, like, I'm not going to wear my socks on the street. I don't wear my underwear on the street. They think of it as sort of this category that falls into intimate. And so it's shocking, but I like that because that means you're doing something different. I'm not the first person to make a sock shoe, but I do think that I'm the first person to make a comfortable, working, amazing shoe that looks like a sock.
Sarah, do you have one on?
I do.
Pull it off. Just show the camera.
I haven't worn another pair of shoes since October 2023.
Oh my
God. I have to be a walking billboard.
Right.
And, this is a
cool.
sock. Thank you. And there's
feel
a
it.
full
It's a real
internal
full
shoe.
Yeah.
And then if you feel it, there's a very big insole. So I custom injected the insoles because I really wanted it to be comfortable. I'm from New York City. We walk. I had to be able to walk in them. I wanted them more comfortable.
Cool. Yeah.
Very cool.
Thank you.
And like
made in New York?
No, it's made in Portugal. We have 3 different factories. We have one that knits the socks out of recycled cashmere.
Okay.
One that injects the insole. And then one that makes the outsole out of recycled rubber, tonal to the color of the socks. And then they put it all together in another factory. So we work out of Portugal. It was really great working there. I would love to bring production to the US.
But might not have the knowledge to do this yet, but we will.
Right.
We'll figure it out.
Exactly.
Here.
Well, it's interesting that you say that because they had never done this type of product before. And we were in Portugal and it was the end of our trip and we were just scratching our heads. No one could make it.
Right.
And the man said, I'm sorry, like back to the drawing board. And I said, no, I'm leaving tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Like, we need a working solution. I said, sorry, the factory's closed for the day. It was 4:45. And I said, can you bring me a sock, glue? And I named the materials that I needed. And because I had made 100 by hand, it was sitting at a table with men.
Right.
And I said, let me show you how I've made them. And
he
goes,
doesn't it feel good to take back the power?
I mean, my hand was shaking and he's like, oh, let me help you with that. Like when I was cutting, I go, no, I just had a lot of coffee today.
Right.
Like I wouldn't admit it, but it was all
not.
men and factory owners. And I was this crazy, like stay-at-home
American
mama
woman
that was like rolling in like, I want to make these shoes. And the man, like an older gentleman came up to me, probably like of your generation.
Right.
What kind of lady is going to wear these shoes? And
well, that's an interesting concept. I'm going to say the other thing. I don't know, would you wear this to the office? I think this is much more wearing around town, going out.
I don't
with
think
friends,
I'm wearing
going
Saturday
out
night.
Do you really?
I wore them black tie. Even I went to a 50th birthday
Good for you.
and I wore the black ones.
Okay.
The black Duchess silk dress. Okay. And my partner in business and in life, Max Fetterbush, he wore the black ones with his tucks. And men have been wearing Venetian slippers, Belgian slippers with tuxes forever.
Well, men much more so
and
than women.
I said, this is like amazing. Like, oh, you're wearing slippers? I'm wearing socks on. Even more comfortable than you, a black tie. So I kind of like to do a tongue-in-cheek like that because what woman goes to a black tie after the cocktail hour? My feet are throbbing.
Yes.
I'm not comfortable. I don't feel like dancing. And then I think that's what it is. I think women have been uncomfortable. And then men or whoever they're with wonder like, oh, why is she, a diva? Or why is she saying her toes hurt? Or why does she need Advil? And it's like, no, we're just as fun as everyone else. But like, if you're uncomfortable, you're not going to have fun.
It's actually such a good point. Like the judgment of you can't walk down the block to get a cab. Like, why does the Uber have to come around or things like this? And it's not easy to walk in heels after you've been in them all night. And it's not good for your back, and it's not
like this is true. These are true.
Yeah.
I like it. I like the idea that you could get them in any color. So the black really is fabulous because it blends into the pants. Yeah, exactly.
And if you're in the city and you wear a black mini skirt with black tights, cotton, cashmere, or whatever tights, and then you put the black on, it's just the most seamless look.
Right.
And so I think that's why we've done through our advertising and our marketing that we've done in the photo shoots was really to explain to the client like how they're going to wear it, when they're going to wear it outside of their bedroom.
That's very good that you're doing that.
Yeah.
Because it's a new item. It's a new item. It has to be explained.
It has to be explained and visually, because I don't think people read long,
Yeah, well, they can't get it. This one picture is worth 1,000 words.
Well, also we're relearning societally, and this is what Grandma and I talked about before you came in, like, hundreds of years ago, we were like really uncomfortable. We were in corsets and multiple layers of skirts and all of these things, and we're kind of relearning as women that we don't have to do that to look beautiful, and that's not, you can't do that on your own either, by the way. Like, we all need to
and it's women supporting other women saying, no, that looks great, no, I'm gonna wear them to the office with like big wide leg trousers and like a man's shirt tucked in, and then you wear this. It's just resetting sort of how you think of a sock or how you think of being exposed. I mean, women wear everything under the sun, basically, that are comfortable now, but with their chest and their cleavage exposed. But people are like, oh, I don't want to show my socks, So it's that kind of education.
Well, you figured that out by making pretty socks. See, that's the difference. My socks from my drawer would not look pretty, but the cashmere ones are beautiful, and they're really, it's a very slimming look, I think, on everybody. The sock thing is very different, and it's fun, and I know it's going to be a fashion statement.
Thank you. Yes, and it's just nice to have that, like to feel like you have a creativity
that you're doing,
but
something.
To be able to have an outlet for it. I think for any artist or creative, like to have a tangible expression of your creativity is like, it's mind blowing to me, because I've never had that, and I'm 45 years old. So that's been extremely exciting, and I didn't anticipate that.
Totally. And I think, we talk about this all the time, but like, you found hopefully a creative outlet in this at 80. So it's really,
I think Sarah's inspirational in the sense that young women today can do things from home. They can create wonderful, wonderful things and raise a family, have a relationship that works. All these things, it takes a lot to do all of them together, and you have to get into a comfort zone. Now, mine came much later on in life. Sarah's is now, her children are now starting to leave the nest. And so she's creating something that she can really put her imprint on now and really develop her own talents, where she was always, I think really in the beginning, when you have a young family and you're starting out, most of your effort goes into the family. And now as you get a little bit older and you have a little more time, you can do your own creative thing. Of course, it took me 80 years. So to find that, but it's never too late.
Yeah. What do your kids think of Brave Pudding?
I love your questions. They're awesome. My children, I think, always give their mothers a hard time, and or their parents in general. So I would say don't really know how they feel.
Like they're not going to be the spokesperson. You're not putting them in the marketing campaign.
Well, I think they are out of earshot, like when they're at school, and I think they're talking to their friends. Right. I hope. That's my fantasy. But in the home, they want me to be their mom. Yeah. When I started working, they were like, can you finish all your calls by 3? And I said, sure, when you come over, are you going to hang out with me at 3? And they said, no, we just want to see you there, like waiting.
Interesting.
And so I think it's been an adjustment for the 4 children because they have to.
But it's a good adjustment, because many women have to work and don't have the time to give to the children the way Sarah has done, and perhaps your mom and the way I did. But it's very important that children know their mothers have something that they do well, and they're trying to make a success of whatever it is, whether it's making a cake or doing anything that's their thing.
And even seeing the failures along the way.
So that they know that they can fail and it's still all right.
And they'll come in the beginning, they were like, how many sales did you have today? Like that was their barometer as to whether it was successful or not. And at first I was embarrassed when we had a day, in September when it was hot and I was launching a brand of cashmere socks and no one knew what it was. And they were like, I'm not buying it. and so I kind of used to shield them from it, I think. And I'd be like, oh, well, we did well. Or I would think of something to protect, I think, myself.
Yeah. Right.
And then I sort of got comfortable with the fact that I'm not really teaching my kids anything.
Exactly.
If I say like, great, everything's great, you know? And so seeing like, no, we didn't have a good day today. Or no, the sample came from Portugal and it's not
every day is in Christmas.
But and also saying like the success isn't necessarily like dollars, and it's a lot of other things
that becomes part of it, because that is a gratification that you know that you're economically now self-sufficient in doing something that you love to do.
This is always the difference between us, though. You're like, once Excuse Me Grandma was a business, you were like, we're doing it. And like the whole time I was just like, I'll do it for free. Like I have.
Yeah, but I don't, free is not in my vocabulary.
I got it.
So, I mean, it's fine if you're doing public service, then it is free.
And I'm exaggerating.
You should do that. But if you're really putting effort into it and you're putting your time and effort, it makes you feel good for yourself. You don't have to become Elon Musk. I mean, we don't need to have trillions of dollars of profit, but you want to know after all the time that you put in that it is successful financially. Otherwise, you really can't keep doing it. I mean, nobody has a bottomless pit where you just can keep doing that.
I agree. And I think it's important for the team too. We built a really good team, and we spent the time while we're developing the product to build a team. So I think, unfortunately, like monetary success is still a barometer of success because we have a whole team and they see the numbers and they want to know if we're doing well. And when we have a great day, I mean, we were in the Wall Street Journal on Thursday, we had so many orders and that pumps them up. And I said to them, you know, post it on your Instagrams. Like, this is your victory as much as it's mine. Like, you've worked all this. It's great that it's my name and I'm the founder and Brave Pudding. And I really love all that. But like, these are amazing, hardworking people that have worked their hearts into it. And it's their job. So they want to know. It's like, right? Like, so if I continue a business that's not bringing in revenue, I would feel uncomfortable with
for
my
sure.
team, I think.
For sure.
Not to be pushing and pushing and pushing.
Makes sense. And you need people who believe in you and
believe in the product.
Believe in the product. You're in a relationship?
I am.
Okay.
Yes.
What does he think of your...
Well, he's evidently wearing the shoe.
Exactly.
He wore a black tie.
He wore them to black tie.
Right.
So he's my co-founder and business partner. And he's the CEO of the company.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Okay.
Yes. And so he was sort of there all along. And then I think when he realized that, you know, we were selling so many with the handmade product, he said, you know, are you really serious about this? Like, do you want to work? You know, we really took the time to sort of figure it out and not just sort of have one thing flow into the other. And I said, no, I'm really serious about this. I believe it. And he said, I've started a bunch of businesses. He's been in hospitality and he's invested in companies. He said, you have a unique product. It's going to be well made, right? It's a new category. He's like, you should try to do this, you know, and I can help you do it. And so he went to business school and he's extremely bright. And so he's been an amazing support in terms of like developing the business, but I'm still on every single call. I don't want to be the creative that has no idea what's going on in the business, but I think that having a co-founder is like an amazing support in starting a business.
Yes.
Whether it's male, female, or whatever, but it's just so happens. I mean, he did wake me up once in the middle of the night and sort of nudged me. We don't live together, but we were together when we don't have our kids. And he nudged me in the middle of the night and he said, Sarah, wake up. Or he calls me Sizzle. That's his nickname. Sarah Fiszel. I don't know.
Oh,
and
cute.
Said, have you ever made shoes before? And I was like, what?
That's so funny.
Like, have you ever made a shoe?
Have you ever done this before?
No, go back to sleep and don't wake me up anymore.
Right, exactly.
You know? And so I think there was that moment of like, but he likes to say like he felt like my style was unique and different, that he, you know, doesn't have that creativity, but he's, you know, sort of betting on my, you know, to my style and how my work ethic and how we work together. So it's been an amazing thing. My parents worked together when I was growing up.
So you're kind of used to seeing a business run by a couple also, because it's really, I mean, it happens, and we work together as family members, but like there's challenges that come from mixing business and pleasure.
And I worked for my father. I worked with my father for around 10 or 15 years and we sold real estate together. So I think for me, it's just a very natural fit. I think the hardest thing is when you live with someone, you share a life with someone, whatever it may be, that, you know, it's really hard to then like reset and be in the relationship mode again. And I think that's what we've sort of navigated in the course since we've launched the company. And I also think we spent since it is my sort of second time around in a relationship, I said, you know, I was very young when I met my ex and he's wonderful and he's a great friend and we raised our kids together. So I feel very blessed. But I wanted to take the time in this new relationship. I said, whoever I date and marry, I want to go into therapy pretty soon.
Oh my God, I can't believe this
someone.
is your soulmate.
No, because I like,
and he was like, why? And I think I went on a couple dates when I got to work, and I remember saying it on each date. And I kind of was like, I'm just going to be myself, because at this age, I can't hide that I have 4 kids.
Right.
I can't, I am who I am a little bit, but I'm always trying to grow and evolve. And I said, I would like it because I think you have to learn another person. How can you get along with someone if you don't know what their triggers
baggage,
are?
you know what their baggage is.
Right? You don't know what triggers them, what upsets them, how they're good, right? And so we kind of spent the time getting to know each other very early in our relationship.
It can only help though.
But that's at a certain age. I think this is very different. This is a second act. First act, if you told your boyfriend, a 26 or 20 or 30-year-old guy, let's go into therapy, he's going to go say,
well, I don't know. Like my boyfriend and I are separately therapy people. Like we always have been in therapy. So like that's better than nothing.
Yes.
I could see how it would be useful to do together, but I think also it is very like, I probably haven't, thank God, been like burned enough or feel like I need to not that you have to be I think like
it's different. I think you have other issues when you had children and when you have other
like there's
issues,
there's
so much to take on as a second partner. So in that case, I agree with Sarah. You really do need to talk it out with somebody professional. But I think as a first time around, you should, if you're having so many problems right away, you should just almost move on.
But it's not always like you're in
a problem.
It's not that you have problems.
It's like why it could be like, why do you always get quiet when I ask how I look? I don't know, I'm making something up, right? And like you could fight about it for the next 15 years, or you could like kind of talk it out and be like, what is it when I say, do I look? And he would be like, oh, like my mother used to always say, or whatever.
Well, it always gets back to the mother.
Well,
it doesn't matter
that's a cliche,
what conversation, it's always the mother.
Totally.
But yeah, I'm feel like it could be so fun, and your business could even be better when you are in it with a romantic partner or family member, if you are aligned in that way. And luckily in your case, you were. So that's great. Okay, let's talk about our grandma report. This week, our article, it's in Business of Fashion, and it's just talking about H&M using AI models. So since we have Sarah here, the expert.
Certainly not us.
Well, we can give our 2 cents on it, but basically
explain to the audience what they're doing, because it's a little weird.
Yeah. Well, I think H&M hired like 30 models or something like that and made duplicates of them in AI that they can use in their marketing materials, and the models are also able to take that with other brands if they choose.
And they get paid for their images.
I don't know.
I think so. I think
they
get paid for that image. Otherwise, why would the model have a duplicate?
But yeah, it begs the question, like, is it taking away jobs for future models, for stylists, for hair and makeup people, for photographers?
Probably is.
Sarah, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think it's a huge disruptor. I mean, I think AI across the board is going to affect every industry. I'm really interested in AI, particularly as a new business. Doing a photo shoot and a campaign, especially for a product like this, where I really had to visually explain what the product was and how to wear it. The photo shoot was extremely important, but it also was our biggest budget, right? That was like our biggest expense. And so if you have the ability to take what would be a $50,000 photo shoot and reduce it to like $50 through AI, I mean, as much of a disruptor as it is in fashion, like you have to do it, right? You know, you can go from having to shoot an outdoor location, you know, and that's a whole budget. And then an indoor location, the studio is another budget. And the fact that you can have a model and interchange the backgrounds. And, I mean, it's just amazing.
It's a game changer.
We've interviewed about 3 or 4 companies that are doing this now in fashion. I think we're really, really close. I think for our next product launch, we'll probably do a combination of the two, because I think they're not quite there, but they're like right on the cusp.
It's close.
Yes. And I think there are players in the space, and they're constantly updating and perfecting it. And I can put on my shoes. I could put on puddings in the beach, puddings in Aspen, puddings here.
Meaning that it doesn't look lifelike yet? Like, what do you mean it's not almost there?
It looks lifelike. I think the model looks lifelike. It's hard to have the product look lifelike and perform.
But they'll fix it.
I think they will.
They'll fix it.
I think it's all amazing. I mean, I'm obsessed with like ChatGPT and stuff. I'm also interested in AI. My only thing is when it comes to like those creative industries, like I know in film and TV, it's a huge discussion now too of like using AI and taking away jobs.
It doesn't matter. They're going to have to learn different jobs. We've discussed this. This is the way the future is. You can't pull back. It's only going to go forward. There's going to be a disrupting moment in our time, and we will get over it. I mean, your brother's been talking about this for years. I mean, he was a proponent as a kid at 18 years old of AI. So he's right, and we didn't understand it. If I did, I would have bought a lot of the stock he talked about. But the truth of the matter is that's the future. You can never look back. You can really never go backwards. Everything is forward.
So
just like these are forward-looking shoes, forward different ideas. We can't go back to wearing platforms. Women are not going to do it. I mean, maybe it'll be for one fashion shoot. Maybe somebody in Paris will wear it. But most people want to go and be comfortable or be part of a new generation, new thinking. Everything is new, including us. I mean, I want to think new. I don't want to think old stuff.
I feel the same exact way as you, Gail.
I think it's very important, and I don't think people should worry about the jobs will come. We're going to have different types of education. We're not going to learn the same way because it's not going to be necessary. You're going to have to look on your phone. You can find out all the information without memorizing what dates in history were important. It's, that's already changed. So I don't think we should worry about it. I think people should look. Hopefully there'll be new things to be excited about.
Yeah. Speaking of old fashion trends, let's play a game of Should We Bring It Back? We play it on every episode with like 1950s fashion trends, and then we'll decide whether we want to bring it back to today or leave it in the past. Okay, a corset waist.
Not for me.
I don't like the look.
I love the look, but it is uncomfortable.
Exactly. It looks good on.
I would like to bring it back, but you guys say no.
Well, for me, it's like brave pudding. My style is very relaxed. So the corset doesn't appeal to me because it looks uncomfortable.
Right. How do you just, I guess, define ease and comfort in fashion? Or is it a feeling?
I think it's definitely a feeling that comes from not looking too done. Too formal, too I think that's one great thing about black tie. It was the first time I felt comfortable in black tie. I felt like myself wearing this beautiful gown with beautiful cashmere socks, and like instead of a fur piece or instead of an overly fancy coat, I wore sort of like a cashmere elder statesman grandpa cardigan. And I was like, oh, I feel like me for the first time, because I was expressing myself. It doesn't have to be screaming with bright colors and neon and loud. It's just sort of an expression.
I think the corset is now, the place for a corset is perhaps now in a wedding gown. And then after that, it's retired.
Okay. Opera gloves.
Opera gloves are definitely a no. But I do know, I see on when the Met has the Costume Institute, the women wear the long black ones. It's a look. It's a look. I don't think for 300 million people they're going to buy opera gloves. But, it doesn't bother me.
Sarah?
I'm not into opera gloves, but I really am into gloves lately. So I've started wearing gloves all the time, even in the spring.
Okay.
Because I have a little bit of OCD, so I don't like touching things. And I realized, people used to always wear gloves.
Yes, we did.
I have an accessories business. I'm like, there's a reason why people wear gloves. You're not touching everything and then touching your face.
Like cashmere gloves?
I found this brand, actually leather gloves.
Leather gloves are beautiful.
Yeah. I'm really into beautiful leather gloves.
I still have some. They were beautiful.
Really,
an elegant woman never went out without a little fluff.
And I see old pictures of Jackie O. She would wear the simplest long sleeve cotton t-shirt with just a short glove with like a snap, but where the snap open. And so that's kind of me. Like I would wear the formal glove, but the snap would be open. It wouldn't look like so perfect. So I'm really into gloves.
Okay.
I don't know about opera though, but
so that means like the higher on the arm.
I had it the last time I made anybody wear it was at your mother's wedding. They wore long
but
white
wasn't it
gloves,
like 80 degrees?
and it was 84 degrees. And I felt so badly for those girls. I mean, we're talking about 30.
And they were in velvet dresses.
And red wine velvet dresses and long white gloves.
Because it happened to be a hot day in the winter. Right?
And no air conditioning. It wasn't the winter. It was not good. So that was the last time I ever insisted on long gloves.
Okay, 2-piece sets. I feel like it was a
Bathing
thing
suits,
to
you
wear. No, like wasn't it a thing to wear like the skirt with the matching like top?
Oh yeah, well they still do that.
Yeah.
You know?
I feel like that's back. Like
I like it. It makes people look, especially older people, when you don't break up a color palette, you tend to look slimmer.
okay.
And it's
I
sleeker.
love
like
a matching set because
I
I,
like a
don't have to
matching
think
set.
about styling.
I love a matching set.
Yeah.
It's like my language. I
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah, I like it too.
Okay, and peplum.
I like it. I mean, it was a couple years ago. I think they were more in style and exciting.
Right.
Now I'm not so into it for some
It's
reason.
not as chic.
I don't
So I like
know if it's
Maybe a
maybe
peplum
pom-
blazer. Like
The
a
new
fitted-
peplum jackets by Libero. I think it's a new brand.
I'll have to look it up.
Liberowe. I don't know. They're doing peplums. I think hers are super chic.
I think if you're
okay.
very tall and very thin, it looks very pretty. If you're short and a little stout, it's not a pretty look. I think it's really
So you
all
need more
about body
torso,
type.
maybe?
Yeah,
Right.
it's all about body type.
I like a peplum jacket open too.
Okay, let's just finish up with Ask Grandma Anything, but Sarah will stay to get some of your opinions. Our listeners wrote in these questions on Instagram. First one is favorite restaurant in Florida.
Oh, that's becoming very, I'm getting a little tired. But my favorite restaurant in Florida, I think, is Still Kitchen in West Palm on Belvedere.
Okay.
Delicious fish, and all the ingredients are very, very good. And he's the chef is there all the time. I think it's good.
I mean, my favorites always change. I like Brick Tops and
Yeah.
Palm Beach Grill.
Yeah,
Just
well, those
like,
are favorites of everybody.
Standard
Can't get in anymore,
classics.
though, but it's
I
good.
Yeah.
I think my favorite restaurant is Pizza Al Fresco.
Mm.
Yeah. Oh, somebody was saying the fish there.
It's
They're
very
so
good.
fabulous.
It is.
That's what they were discussing yesterday.
The salmon used to be really
Yeah.
good too. And I love the pizza.
Yeah.
And I just have so many good memories. So
Yeah.
for me, I think
And it's
restaurants
pretty.
are more about memories,
Yeah.
but they have to have good food too. So the
Like
pizza,
the setting
Pizza
and
Al
the
Fresco.
vibe, all plays a
Yes.
part. How to build close friendships.
Well, be authentic, and you don't have that many. If you can count one or two people to be a close friend, you'll be very lucky. And you have to be honest with them and be caring.
I do feel like I have like adult
You have
friends,
a lot of friends,
that
right.
I made. Obviously, the people I know from school, like those are longer term relationships. But then when you are living in the city or wherever you are and you like want to make some new
Yeah.
friends, I do feel like it goes a long way to not constantly because you don't want to be annoying as a new friend, but like once every few weeks at least, like try to get a dinner on the books
Okay.
to kind of form that new relationship because it does take time to like start something
Yeah.
new, and it's kind of like you're
And everybody's
dating
busy.
friends and
Well, you're busy, and so
Yeah.
people have to make time
in advance.
I think it's
And also like if you really want to be friends with this new person, remembering this is obvious, but like remember things that they said, like show interest in
and what they're doing.
what they're doing, all that. Are there fewer high quality men now than there were when you were young?
I don't think they are. It's just that we didn't have boyfriends as long. Within a couple of months, you would, certainly not when you were a teenager or when you were early 20s, but by the time you were 23, you were already married. I mean, we didn't live with people for 2 years and have a conversation. Maybe we'll go to the next level next year. I mean, that wasn't heard of. First of all, women didn't live outside of their homes.
Yeah.
So that's a whole different story. And we really can't really compare from the 50s, 60s, and even the
But
early
there is
70s.
that trope that everyone says that I don't like to perpetuate of like all the good guys are gone. they're
No,
all
I don't
taken.
agree with that. I don't agree with that.
Yeah.
I think it's just you have different, as you get older, you need different things. And when I was younger, it wasn't, you were looking for a partner who maybe you would start a family with and say, oh my gosh, he's got a good living, we can do it together and whatever. As you get older, you have different values. You want different things out of it. And if you're starting out at 30, it's not the same conversation as when you're 22 or 23.
Yeah.
So I think there are plenty of good women out there, plenty of good men out there. It's just who clicks with you.
Mhm.
Right. I think it's the best time to meet men. I think men have never been better because
Yeah.
women are better and
Yeah.
women are more empowered, right? So
that's true.
the men that I'm raising, that I'm bringing up, know about therapy, know about they're being raised in a home where I'm
So
an
true.
entrepreneur, I'm starting a business. So I think like the best group of men, probably is coming up. And I think there are a lot out there in their 30s that have been raised in a
Right.
different way than men had been raised previously. And they're much more open-minded to
Yes.
having a very open partnership.
Yeah, I love that. Actually, I'm going to use that response, like if I'm asked that, because it is so true. Like the culture now has shifted in a lot of ways for the better. Obviously, we lose some of the, nice manners,
I know.
tradition, like those kind of things that I'm a nostalgic person. I like those things of the past, but
I still think the man should be the head of the house. I don't care how wonderful the woman is.
How do you
brilliant.
define head of the house?
I think he should be and of course this isn't applicable in many cases today, but still the breadwinner for the most part. A woman can have a career, so if they're 50-50, perfect, but the man still should be the father, still should be the person that the children look up to as the ultimate person. The mother is the nurturer, father is the provider. I know it's old-fashioned. I still think it works. And I think when you disrupt it, it doesn't always work. And then the kids end up suffering because they're not sure who is really heading the ship. Somebody has to run the ship.
Well, I think
And you make a decision right in the beginning. You want me to run the ship or you want you to run the ship? Somebody has to run the ship. And I think when there's equal partnering, it doesn't usually work because nothing is ever equal in a relationship.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I agree with you 100%, but I think children are more sophisticated
I
now,
hope so.
and they're able
Yeah.
to understand the nuances of
Right.
relationships,
Right.
right? So, I can be in the partnership I have
Right.
while I'm raising my
Right.
children. My kids kind of know.
Well, that's very different now.
parents,
Right.
their mother's sort
Right.
of the powerhouse for that one.
Right.
Their father makes the decision
Right.
for that one. They pick it up so
They
easily.
know.
And so it becomes more, even in my relationship with my ex, like Dave and I have really evolved in our relationship, and our kids sort of understand the dynamics of
Well, you're
who's-
lucky.
right.
You're lucky.
But I work so
You
hard
worked at it.
for it.
You
I mean,
worked
we've
for
worked
it.
so hard to
Yeah.
progress a relationship that really works in the modern world. And then my part Max and I work, all the time to sort of define and redefine what that makes.
Yeah.
It means. Right?
Yeah, I think the redefining is a huge part because, like, one, to say that it works the way that you had it, like, I don't think it worked for a lot of people. Like, I think a lot of people
50% of the people got divorced.
right, and I think a lot of people were unhappy even if they didn't get divorced. So to say it worked, like, I'm happy it worked for you, obviously, but
Correct.
I think that I don't know. Obviously, things are shifting and changing because they weren't really working.
Well, I don't know if it ever works. I think relationships have to be worked out between two people. And I think when you take away certain innate characteristics, which I have seen with some women, not all women, certainly not you and not you, but a lot of women emasculate a man and make them feel that they're really
I don't
not-
think that's true at all. I
You
think
know?
you should be
Okay.
comfortable in yourself so that no one can emasculate you, no one can
but I'm not
defeminize
sure
you,
that
no
can
one
be
can.
if that's true. Though.
Well, then they shouldn't be with somebody who.
Well, that person.
If they have such a fragile ego,
Yeah.
that someone being successful around them doesn't make them feel more motivated, and then it brings them down. One, they have their own demons, but fine, they can find someone that they're
I
not
hope
gonna.
you're right. I hope you're right because a lot of women out there are very unhappy in their relationships, and I think a lot of men are unhappy. I think that it used to be a
Right.
simpler time, and I think now roles are not defined as such, and this has become an issue. I don't know the answer. That's for sure.
No, I agree. I used to see things as very black and white.
Right.
I think
You
that's
can't.
how I was raised. Everything is black and white, right? And so I think life is really more nuanced.
Right.
And you kind of have to live in the gray.
Right.
And for a lot of people, it was especially true for
Very
me.
hard.
I was extremely uncomfortable
Mhm.
living in the gray. I wanted definitive answers. I wanted a definitive
Right.
family structure.
Yeah.
Right? Because that felt comfortable. Going into the gray areas is kind of uncomfortable, right? And I think women are just starting to get comfortable being in that gray area and having confidence around them, seeing other
Right.
women. So you're a young woman, like you come to me and say, I want to do X, Y, and Z, and I'm going to open up every thing I have to be like, yes, you can do it.
Right.
Like, yes, you can have a modern
Well, it's a
relationship.
sisterhood now.
Yes.
And women are learning how to support themselves, how to have relationships, how to make men feel great, but not in the traditional, masculine, feminine
It's a
roles. And
definite change.
that we work on. And I think it's also in a relationship, it's like constant work in terms of, I think a lot of men are unhappy. I think a lot of women are unhappy, but I think through productive conversation, it's the only way to stay sane, you know?
Agreed.
Now we've cured everybody. There's a person listening to this podcast that isn't cured now.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Sarah, thank you so much for joining us.
You're
Tell
terrific.
everyone
My
how
pleasure.
they can find you, find your brand.
The best way to find us is at bravepudding.com. And we're online, and we're also at Carnazabete. We're at Coibird in London. We're at a store in Deauville, France.
Oh,
I mean,
wow.
we're really.
May I ask how much they retail for?
Yes, absolutely. They retail for $380.
Okay, so they're pricey, but they're lovely.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I had a question for Gail. Can I ask her?
Of course.
Question?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Forgot to give you the floor.
No. But it's something if I bumped into you, I wanted to ask you. For me, starting work at 45,
Right.
I would be lying if I didn't say like I have a different swagger in my step,
Yeah.
right? It's really rewarding. And I wanted to know how you feel having started a career. I mean, I know you love to give Kimberly a lot, all the credit. And she really is amazing and a remarkable young woman, but certainly you are as
since
well.
when do you give me the credit?
I always give you the credit.
She does.
I always
Oh,
say
really?
you're the
Oh,
boss.
okay.
Oh,
Yeah, I always give you the credit.
Because she doesn't, so I wonder if that's like how you feel about it, walking around in
You're
your
sweet,
mind.
Sarah. No, I actually love meeting people. I've always loved it. I'm much more outgoing than even Kim. So the part of that I love is like meeting you, meeting other young women, men that have an interesting point of view. This is something I never did. So I'm loving it, enjoying it for what that is. I don't want any of the publicity, the glory of the business, because that's really Kim's creation and her team's creation. That has nothing to do with me. I come on here, I'm a guest.
But when you're washing your face at night and
I love it.
you're putting on your
I love
pajamas
it.
and you work during the day,
I work.
is it a different mindset than
Yes,
you
it's a
had?
different. It's a different mindset, because now I know that I'm changing people's attitudes about how older people can do things. And that's one of the messages we always talk about. It's never too late to go do something. I got an opportunity through my granddaughter, but there's so many other women who have got so much to offer when they're older, that if given the opportunity, they would be terrific.
Well, I think women have always like secretly ruled everything. I mean, I like to say that,
Well, that's
you
true.
and my mother and the women at the card table, they literally believe and probably could solve every problem.
What we do
Yeah.
to solve
You
every
do.
problem.
You do. And they do it with confidence.
Yeah.
And they speak. I mean, I was
Totally.
interviewed and the author said, the writer said, oh my God, you have so much confidence in your product. You really believe in it. I go, oh, you should see my mother
Yeah.
and her card ladies.
So
like
true.
they believe they could make laws
Yes.
that would work. And there's no question about it.
100%.
And I
And
love
their
that.
word is Bible. Like,
But that's why I want so many women, even women that are Gail's
Mature
age,
women.
mature women. Like I always go to older people
Yeah.
for advice
Yeah,
because
you
they're
should.
a wealth of knowledge and
Yeah.
they've seen so much. A therapist once said to me, I said, "Oh, I'm scared to tell my grandmother
Right.
about something," and he goes, "Oh no, you shouldn't be worried about your grandmother. She should be the first one. She's lived so much life.
Exactly.
They're
much more
You can't
tolerant.
shake that." And I was
Yeah.
like, "Really? Even with this?" I called my grandmother. She was like, "Okay, you'll be fine. What's next? Like, what are you
Yeah.
having for dinner?
Right.
Did
Right.
you find that lipstick you were
yeah,
looking for?
exactly.
Because it doesn't shake them in the way
Because
a
we've
young
already
person.
lived through so many things that these
Right.
things that you think are so traumatic, when you're in your 20s and 30s and 40s, really we've done it.
But women didn't talk about it.
No,
So
well, that was a different thing. First of all, the phones have changed everything, and nobody talked about their private lives as openly today as in the old days as they do today. So it's for the better. Sometimes it's an oversharing of stuff, but in most cases, I think it's helpful for other people to hear other issues.
And you have to, obviously, I know you do give yourself credit, which is why I was surprised, because privately you give yourself credit, but I do.
Good. I like that.
Yeah. But like, I will say, just because I'm the one doing deals and doing strategy for the business and like hiring people, like that doesn't, like, your value, which is also being talent.
Yes.
And like,
Well, you always said that. So I mean, that was our dynamic. So
It was everywhere. My mother would come home and say, "Gail said," and it was like law.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
ridiculous. It's
No,
ridiculous.
I love it. I love the cadence of how you talk. I love your confidence. I love it all.
But
And your good
the
advice.
longer you're around, the more you say it. You don't know if it's true or not, but you keep saying it.
yeah.
And
No, but all your friends kind of do go to you as that like person.
Yes.
That's the thing about you for sure.
All right, sweetheart.
All right. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you. My ego is now up 1,000%.
And you guys know how to follow us. We're Excuse My Grandma on TikTok, Instagram, wherever you're listening to podcasts. And we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.